Originally for Friday night at the movies, I was going to review A Cinderella Story If the Shoe Fits by Warner Brothers. And in some of my earlier videos, I mentioned that this was going to be tonight's review. And I believe I also made the mistake of saying that these were done by Disney. And the reason why I said that was because I really thought these were all Disney movies. For years, ever since A Cinderella Story came out with Hilary Duff, I was positive it was a Disney movie because Hilary Duff was coming up in stardom for her TV series on the Disney Channel, Lizzie McGuire. And so, yeah, I just always thought these cheesy movies were Disney movies. Even though I haven't watched the other two movies all the way through, Another Cinderella Story, Dancing Ever After, and A Cinderella Story, Once Upon a Song, I have seen clips of them on YouTube, and they always seemed like a Disney-like property. So when I saw this and realized, oh, this is Warner Brothers, I just thought Warner Brothers was trying to do their own thing and use the Cinderella story. I mean, yeah. No, they are doing their own thing, but they've done all of them. So, since I plan on reviewing these three for my New Year's special, like just watching all of them at once and stuff, then I'm going to do all four of these review together for New Year's. So that leaves me with the question of, what do I review tonight? Well, I decided to watch one of my favorite movies, movie versions of Cinderella's, and actually, let me rephrase that. Not my favorite movie of Cinderella, because it's not actually a movie. It is part of a TV series, Fairy Tale Theater. I actually own this. I got it for my birthday one year as an adult, but as a kid, I watched the VHS from the library over and over and over again. It was one of my favorite things in the world to watch was Fairy Tale Theater. This is one of the reasons why I love fairy tales. It's because of Fairy Tale Theater. It's not the first Cinderella I'd ever seen on TV, but it was my favorite growing up. It has a lot to do with how I view Cinderella movies. And so, as an adult, going back and rewatching it, I really wanted to do better, but I knew there were certain things that were campy, and it kind of pained me to try to grade it fairly and not just my own personal bias. Seriously, when something is like your definitive standard of a particular story on film, it's really hard to go back and be very subjective and be harsh when you know you really should be. But there are some problems with this. Nevertheless, I think I managed. The Cinderella character is played by Jennifer Beals, and the Prince Charming is played by Matthew Broderick. Matthew Broderick did a lot of really great movies in the 80s. He's done decent stuff in the 90s. His more recent work, not so much, although The Heist was pretty good. It was a good movie. He didn't have the best role in that movie, though. Okay, but nevertheless, we're in Cinderella. And let me look at my notes here. When it comes to the story of it, the first 2/3 is very by the book. Like, literally just going through the motions. It has a narrator to fill in certain gaps. This story is kind of hard to judge in certain ways because it's really told at a time and space in a way. Yes, it has kind of like these old-timey costumes and things, but a lot of the costumes actually look like they belong in some kind of drama like Gone with the Wind or something. Others do look like it's European costumes. There's one character, she doesn't have any lines. She's in the background though at the ball, and one of the ladies that tries the shoe near the end of the movie, and she's a Japanese woman, like beautiful makeup, kimono. And so you have a couple of people like that stand out because of their costumes. But beyond that, a lot of it just seems like it's a not antebellum, but I can't think of the proper term for it, but the pre-Civil War South in America. And it's gorgeous. And along with that, the fairy godmother character has a southern accent. And she is my favorite fairy godmother. Like, one of my favorite fairy godmothers in any adaptation of Cinderella on film. She's funny. She's beautiful. She has this grandmotherly, like, a grandmother who's always trying to joke with you. And there's tied into this story of this that when it finally starts being totally on the nose, when she shows up, Cinderella's like, well, why are you here now? Why didn't you show up during these other times, you know, when my stepsisters were pulling this cruel prank on me or that cruel prank on me? And the fairy godmother's like, darling, do you want to sit and chat all night or do you want to go to the ball? And then she points out that, you know, fairy godmothers need to keep a low profile because you can't solve all your problems through magic. People need to learn to solve their own problems. And she says that's part of growing up, which is really, really good message. And yes, it's very on the nose, and it's said in the movie. And, you know, it's one of those things, this is made for kids and family to enjoy. It was part of a TV series. Each episode they brought to life a different fairy tale. And like I said, this is one of the reasons why I loved fairy tales as a kid, was watching this TV series on VHS. I believe it aired through much of the 80s on TV, but I didn't get to watch it until I was a little bit, till probably the series was already canceled, and it was the early 90s, and I was watching them on VHS. And yeah, so I just love this series. It has a certain campiness to it, so it's not going to totally be for everybody's taste. And whereas during my book haul review on Tuesday, I had to stop and think because I actually recorded it Monday, I believe. But my book haul review this week, I looked at these books and I was disappointed, or not, excuse me, that's why I got the dates mixed up. I did the book haul review last week, but I did compare two chapter books this week. But one of the things I have a problem with a lot of children's books is I feel like sometimes they just talk down to children instead of actually putting the stories on the kids' level. It's like they water it down too much, or it becomes too condescending. Rather than elevating a kid's understanding and teaching them through stories, which is what fairy tales were about. It was about teaching through stories. And children's literature and even movies sometimes, and they miss their mark. Instead of teaching at a kid's level, they just talk down to kids. And it's like doing baby talk to a baby. A kid doesn't learn the proper language when you're doing baby talk. You need to talk to them more appropriately, but you don't make up words. That's just annoying. But anyway, but in the last act of the story, and also one of the things I appreciate with Fairy Tale Theater's version of the Cinderella story is that they actually do have 2 balls instead of 1 ball. Not only does that fill out the running time for the episode, but it's just nice because you get to see the romantic leads interacting a little bit more, and also their time period between the 2 balls. You see the anxiousness and the how desperate they are to meet one another again and to get to know one another more. And so the second ball scene, it's like, yes, they're acting so much like star-crossed teenagers, a little, immature in that they're just inexperienced, but they're very honest. They're very raw about their inexperience in romantic relationships. And there's just this tender sweetness to it, whereas you see, maybe it wasn't just love at first sight. They were infatuated with one another right off, but they did spend like this whole evening and the first ball getting to know one another. Then they have a whole week of separation and just like, I can't wait to see you again. And they see one another again for the second ball, and like, the thrill of finally and you see you again, and talking to one another about the things that happened, in the week that they were separated. And like I said, there is a little immaturity to it, like teenagers, but I feel like it's supposed to show like they are young. They are young adults. They didn't just date around. So this immaturity is part of the characters. It's part of the relationship, and it's very realistic, and it's quite humorous. Like I said, it's pretty tender and sweet. But then, of course, midnight dawns and Cinderella has to run away, and that's when she's like, the cruelness of magic solving the problems. It's like, but I'm never going to see him again. The first night was great. We get the second night, and now I'm hopelessly in love with him because I got to see him the second time as I wished and wanted, but what am I going to do? And I suppose this is where, like, if they really wanted to take that lesson a little bit further, the story would need to be told in a movie to have a little more time to flesh that out, instead of doing, getting back to the Cinderella, following the book and the tradition of, the shoe and things like that. Instead of getting married right away, let's play on this, that yes, we're infatuated with one another, we want to get to know one another, and build on that. But yeah, they get married, and it's a fairy tale, and I believe the episodes run about a half hour, so about 28 minutes or something like that to be a television program filling in a half-hour slot. So it doesn't have a lot of time to dive into these characters and to explore any themes that they wanted to. But for what they do have, it's very humorous. The king character is a hoot. I'm sorry I don't know the actor's name. I should. And the fairy godmother, again, she's very like on the nose, but they're not overly obnoxious. There's some versions of the Cinderella where the fairy godmother and the stepsisters are just so stupid and they're so obnoxious. I can't really stand them. While I appreciate that they didn't push the characters that far, or the actors that far, as far as any depth in relationships and things like that, it's still typical. It's what we know. It's very part of the formula. There's nothing new. So I have to grade all three of those characters a 2. None of them really stands out. In my mind, again, because this was like the definitive Cinderella story from my childhood, a part of me wants to rank the stepmother a little higher, but I don't think that would be very objective. That would be more of my personal subjective rating. But in all honesty, she does deserve it too. She's very blunt. All of her motives, the way she does things, it's all very blunt. It is presented in a way, in dialogue, so that, younger audiences can grasp this and understand it. And it's done in such a way that it doesn't talk down to the younger audience. Yes, it's on the nose, but it's not like ridiculously stupid or insulting to people's intelligence either. So yeah. The music, I like the music. There is a very romantic whimsicalness to the music for all of fairy tale theater's stories, I think. And in Cinderella, it's just what it needs to be. It's just what it should be. Is there anything else? I think that's pretty much it. There's a couple of things that happens to kind of fill in the time on it that kind of suggests some other subplots that they could have gone had it been a full length. Like, even if it had been an hour, it would have been nice to maybe dive into these things, but as it was with the shorter running time, they're just like throwaway scenes that take up like a minute and a half, 2 minutes here and there. One is an old school friend, like I said, kind of takes place out of time and space. It's fairy tale land, so it's a hodgepodge of things. But a school friend comes to court Cinderella. Her stepsisters answer the door, take the flowers from him, and tell him that Cinderella had died and she's no more, and just kind of laugh after they slam the door in his face. Literally, that's all that happens with that scene. Then they tell Cinderella that, you know, the guy came by just to ask them out on a date and give them flowers and say that he hated Cinderella's guts. And so, like I said, it was like a couple minute scene. It had been a full hour long episode or made for TV movie. They could have actually maybe done something with that, but they didn't. Another was at the ball. A drunk guy is stumbling around and hits on Cinderella, and Prince Charming comes and shoos him away, and Cinderella's like, oh, this must be what chivalry is, because the prince rescued her from this drunk. But honestly, Prince Henry, as much as I like Matthew Broderick, and, you know, he can be really charming and witty in certain movies, all he really did was throw around his authority with his crown when he told this guy to get lost. But, you know, other than that, like, it's a cute movie. For me, this Cinderella character, in a lot of ways, is what I like a Cinderella character to be. She represents, like I said, it's by the book, and so with that, she's kind to her stepsisters at the ball, like she's supposed to in the books. She is very charming and sociable and talks to all these different people at the ball, and it's because of pacing-wise, it's done, you know, through the magic of just, you know, showing people around her and then the narrator, and you get a sense of, you know, time passing without them, like, spending a really long time on the ball. So we get to see certain things with her, and again, like, honestly, I think I would love somebody to get a hold of whatever permission they would need to like make a full-length movie that was far closer to this version, this half hour, and like stretch it out, build on the things that they did in this TV episode, because it was really good. It's really cute. It's really sweet. I really like it. Nevertheless, when you rank characters and acting, the set pieces, and various other aspects, the bottom line is it didn't rank as well as I would have liked for it to rank. It is television, it is campy, so ultimately it only gets a 2.73. Okay? And that's it.